our kids, we're happy.
Alhamdulillah.
Just be there.
How are you, Sheikh Yasser? How are the boys?
Man, the boys are good, alhamdulillah. So we just they just came back from Sudan. Yeah, 2 weeks ago, alhamdulillah.
How old are they now?
They're 11.
MashaAllah.
Okay, well, welcome to everybody. I know it looks like it's just us four. Actually, this is the first time this has ever happened, huh, Sheikh Yasser? But as the participants start coming in, I'll go ahead and introduce everybody. Assalamu alaikum, good afternoon. Greetings to you all on this very hot day in Southern California. We at Access Cal welcome you to our Mindful Wednesday series of Back to School. As you will recall, last week we had Sister Mesa, principal of Orange Crescent Islamic School. She joined us to fill us in on the school year's plans. And today we have special guest, Dr. Umar Izzuddin. He's here to advise us on the public schools plans of reopening. We are delighted to have you join us, Dr. Umar. We do appreciate you being here. It's good to see you. Hello to Ms. Nahla Kayali, the founder of Access California. And hello to our dear Sheikh Yasser as well. It's good to see you. And it's good to also meet you too, Brother Yaqub, Brother Fuad, sorry.
Yes, Sarah, it's good seeing you. Nahla, good seeing you as well. Dr. Izzuddin and Fuad, it is good to connect with all of you again, mashallah. Of course, Umar, I will never forget you. I beat you both in soccer as well as in volleyball. And I was just waiting all week long to remind you how badly I beat you that time. When I think it was Mission Viejo Mosque, I think we destroyed the Irvine Masjid, and thanks to me, I think that's how it, I believe that's how it went.
However the dream went for you is fine. I mean, in reality, it was something completely different, but you enjoy the memories of those great dreams.
You know, and I know we will be talking about our kids and schooling very soon, but I just want to say congratulations to your son. That was a very prestigious award that your son won. And if you don't mind, if you can just tell us what happened.
So I have 3 sons, and if you ask me a generic question like that, you're going to run the risk of having me tell you about 3 wonderful boys and all of their tremendous accomplishments. But I'm going to take a guess that you're referencing my middle son, Zaid, who just graduated from high school, and he's going to be going to Chapman to the Dodge College School of Cinematic Arts, which is a very prestigious program. It's highly competitive, and we're very proud of him. So in and of itself, we're tremendously proud of his accomplishments. The films he's making and working on have been really great. He wants to be a cinematographer. His teacher nominated him for Orange County Artist of the Year, and he won. And so he was recognized all throughout the county as Artist of the Year in his field of cinematography or filmmaking. And so thank you for reminding me and giving me the opportunity to gloat about my kids. I'm going to stop, otherwise I'm going to tell you about all the other ones too. So.
You know, I am very sure you can go on and on. And I just want to appreciate that. I think that's very, very beautiful. I think it's a big accomplishment to be the Orange County Artist of the Year in cinematography, and just barely graduating high school. Congratulations on his admittance to Chapman University. And that is just absolutely brilliant. Brother Yaqub, thank you for still being in our community. I know you were with the Orange Crescent, and now you are with Minaret Academy. And I can see from the whiteboard behind you, you are in some classroom setting now.
Yes, I'm in my homeroom, just getting ready, like all my colleagues and teachers and educators across the country. Alhamdulillah.
Beautiful. And you all know that you are, to us, you are all essential workers. I think that at this point, we appreciate teachers beyond belief. And for everybody who is attempting to teach their children at home, I think we are just beyond ourselves as far as how did the teachers do it for all these years. So I know you are all appreciated all the time, but I think at this point, beyond words, like just I think that the level of appreciation has really, really increased. And I understand that these are difficult times. So Sarah and I, inshallah, will just be taking this conversation in asking questions regarding, like she said, you know, last week we had Sister Mesa from the Orange Crescent School, and today we are so blessed to have both of you. And we just want to see what is going on, because our kids are not all going to private schools. Some of them are going to public schools. Some are in Garden Grove, some are in Anaheim. And we just want to see what are the preps that are taking place and how to best help both the kids as well as the parents. And I think that's the plan, Sarah.
Yes, it is. It is. We are here to talk about back to school. It's August, and I know here in California, the kiddos probably will be starting. I mean, as we heard from last week, they started already. I'm not sure, Dr. Ahmad, you could advise us on when the start of the Santa Ana Unified School District
We started
is.
Monday. Yeah, we started Monday.
Oh,
Okay.
well then, best of luck on this new school year. I do want to formally introduce you though, Dr. Ahmad, if you just give me a second. It's so nice to have you. We really do appreciate you and your time. For everybody who's joining us for the first time and not aware of Dr. Ahmad's accomplishments, I do so sorry about that. I do
That's
want to
okay.
go
I thought
ahead.
you were going to say criminal record, but that's
Oh my
okay.
gosh,
That's
no.
fine. They're similar. Yeah,
Not
it's
at
all
all.
right.
Dr. Ahmad Izzuddin is an educational leader in a K through 12 and higher education. He began his teaching career at New Horizon in Pasadena over 20 years ago, mashallah. And since then, he's advanced to administrative and consultant posts at various private and public schools locally as well as internationally. Dr. Izzuddin is an expert in teacher development, data-driven decision-making, and school leadership. He works for the Santa Ana Unified School District and is an adjunct professor at USC's Rossier School of Education. He's also the founder of Camp Izza, along with his wife Munira Lekovich Izzuddin, and he's the proud father of 3 children. MashaAllah. Very impressive bio.
Thank you.
That's why I wanted to give a chance to let everybody hear it. I'm sure you are one of the important stakeholders of the school district at where you're at. And if you could just let us know what's going on, how have things been with replanning and reopening?
Yeah, thank you very much for that wonderful introduction. It's to be with all of you. I first and foremost want to thank you, Sheikh Yasser, and the rest of the team at Access California. I think the service you guys are providing the broader community, specifically the Muslim community, is one that doesn't get acknowledged enough. And I just want to let you know how much I personally appreciate the services that you offer. You know, certainly this podcast is a wonderful service in and of itself, but you guys have been doing this work for a long time. And as we like to say, you've been doing the heart work for quite some time, and I appreciate that very much. So thank you all very much. And a special thanks and appreciation to all of Access's supporters out there, donors, board members, and community members who continue to keep the good work alive. So I just want to begin with that. So thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Something that Sheikh Yasser said that I think is really important is this idea of perspective. And I think what he mentioned was only now that parents have been put in a position where they are not only the parent, not only the employee that is trying to work from a distance, but now they're also the teacher of their own children. Have they realized just what a challenge it is? And I think what they are recognizing is just a small portion of what education does and the role that education has in our society. And I'm speaking broadly, but I could even narrow it down ever so slightly to the role of public education. Let me start with a few things that I don't think many people are aware of, particularly urban districts like Santa Ana. We have a very large population that's qualified for free and reduced lunch. And one of the services that as a school district, we did not stop providing was feeding our students. We fed them from day 2, if you want to say that. So from the moment we shut down, we had to figure out a way to still distribute meals to our students who qualified for food. And I don't think people recognize that. They think schools closed. And indeed, our schools closed and our classrooms were no longer available for the type of instruction that we're familiar with. But the services of our school district, particularly those around feeding our children and maintaining all of the administrative services that keep a school district alive, could not stop. And I think that is a tremendous accomplishment because we were able to do so without risking individuals' health and safety. Um, and that speaks to both the employees' health and safety as well as the parents and students. We have our own police force in our district, and I know that may not be something that has a tremendous amount of it may be a controversial topic to bring up, but I think it's needless to say important to note that we have our own security services that protect both the property and people of our school district. They have also not ceased working since closure in early March. And I think they also deserve acknowledgement for that. And then finally, the individuals that maintain all of our buildings and facilities have also not stopped working. And then of course, all the admin services around there. So I think to say that our school districts have closed or our public schools have closed is only partially correct. There really is a large number of public school employees who are frontline workers, who are every day dealing one-on-one with individuals who pose the potential risk of transmitting illnesses to them, and yet they show up to work every day, and they have served our community in ways that we don't see and we don't recognize, and I think it's important to acknowledge that first and foremost. So I appreciate those individuals tremendously, and I never miss an opportunity to remind our community, and I'm saying our broader community, that public education is still working full time, even though they may not be teaching your kids in their classrooms. There are, of course, countless stories of teachers who have continued to teach their students virtually and remotely. And I think I can kind of skip those stories because I think most of us have experience with that. Now so once I've kind of acknowledged all of this, appreciation for certain people that have not stopped working, the other group of people that have also not stopped working are the people on the educational services side. And these are the individuals who've continued to wrestle with the challenges associated with teaching in this context. And again, perspective is very important. I think for a lot of people, what we are seeing or experiencing is, well, kids aren't getting the disease. Well, kids aren't susceptible to the disease. Well, and we keep going on and on about this. However, children are carriers of the disease. And that being said, they present a tremendous risk to the adults in the organization. They present risks to our teachers, to our instructional assistants, to our custodians, to our office managers, to our principals, and to the countless other employees that work in a school that are exposed to these students. And not only is the risk to those individuals who work in these environments, but the risk also spreads to the homes of those individuals, many of whom live with their own parents or their own grandparents. In many cases, particularly in an urban district, as will come as no surprise to you, there are many families that live in a single home or a single apartment, and the risk is tremendous. And it's evident when you look at the trend data in Orange County specifically. So if you look in Southern California, you look in Orange County, the cities that have the highest incidence of not only contraction of the disease, but death by the disease is in Santa Ana. In fact, I think 3 of the hottest spots, if you look at zip codes, are in our school district. One of them is actually where my district office is. And so we really are hit hard when it comes to this. And we have stories, unfortunately, of family members in our district, families of students who have died from the disease, let alone contracted it. I have colleagues who've contracted it. And so it is no joke, and it is something quite serious. And I think if we can broaden our understanding that we are not just trying to protect children here, we are also trying to protect the adults in the organization and the families of the adults in the organization. Mm-hmm. And so often, I think the talk is about, but the kids, and it's true. We must always put our students first, but that doesn't mean we should neglect our adults. And I want that to be a clear message as well, that whatever policies and practices are put in place at whatever our place of business is, always recognize all of the individuals in the picture. And sometimes those individuals aren't in the picture right in front of you. They're the family members of the people that are in the picture. And I think that's something that we should really take into consideration. And then, of course, you know, a lot of our employees that work in public schools, they have children of their own, and those children are quarantined at home. And so to expect these employees to come to work, but then somehow manage childcare for their own children is also a very tremendous challenge that I don't think we've fully grappled. Um, I'll just say a couple quick things about reopening, and then maybe kind of pause for questioning and more specifics. Um, we're dealing with two particular challenges, and I can break them down into much smaller categories. But the two major issues we're dealing with is a very dynamic context. The context is changing. We're learning more about the disease. We're learning more about transition. We're learning more about access to testing and all these other things. So that every single day there are changes. There are new things that we are learning, and because of that, it's very difficult to come up with one policy that's going to be the case even for 1 week before we end up having to change it again. The second thing, and this is really the one that I feel that really is important, is public education has a unique role when it comes, if we just wanted to look at educating our students, public education has to teach all students. It's all students that become our responsibility. So it isn't just the students who want to learn. It's not just the students who can learn without and assistance. It's all students. So we have to teach our homeless students. We have to teach our students with special needs. We have to teach our students who are home-ruled. They can only learn from home because they're in immunocompromised conditions. We have students who are English learners, but we have students who have severe cognitive disabilities that require them to have a one-on-one aid. And if our charge as a public school district, if our responsibility is to teach all students and provide all students with an equitable access to educational services, we are presented with a challenge that, as I've said numerous times, it hurts my head because I solve the puzzle. And it also hurts my heart because I know that I solve the puzzle for some of those kids, but I can't for others. And it really presents a tremendous challenge for us as educators. And if you can imagine yourself in a classroom, right? You've got Fouad's background to give you some instinct, right? Some inspiration. Imagine yourself in a classroom and you have this variety of students in that classroom. And some of those kids, they come in and they're ready to learn. They'll learn through a computer. They'll sit on a laptop and they'll watch your lectures and they'll engage and respond. But some of those other kids don't understand what you're saying because they speak a different language. Some of those kids can't sit for 5 minutes because they have particular needs that make it difficult for them to do so. Some of them have cognitive delays and they can't process what you're saying. And you have to be responsible for the learning of all of those students. Well, how are you going to do it now? How are you going to do it at a distance? And the answer to that is not simple. And we have yet to really crack the code on that in a way that is truly equitable and fair. So I think we will continue to struggle with these challenges. And I think it's important to recognize that we don't rest. We're working around the clock. Numerous people are trying to solve these puzzles. We've all worked through the summer. We've put together plans, then revised the revisions of those plans. And we've rewritten them numerous times because, as I said, the context keeps changing. The circumstances keep demanding that we change things.
I think that's just beautifully stated, and I couldn't agree more with the whole notion of perspective and the need to acknowledge all the people who are involved, even though they may not be in the picture or part of the picture. And like what you just said about the challenges that you, as a public education entity, wanting to be equitable and just accommodate all this diversity that you have mentioned, be it the cognitive delays, or be it the English is not their first language, or the homelessness, and somehow as a teacher and as an entity, you are somehow responsible to educate all of these kids, and now you have to do it at a distance. And I know you said these are the challenges, and I'm not sure if you can just go, like in a summary fashion, as far as like what is the plan? I mean, how do you plan
Sure.
to meet all these challenges?
Yeah, thank you. And sorry if I didn't answer that question. So one of the primary challenges we have, of course, is we have families who are severely poor. They don't have access to a computer like I do right now, or like all of you who are joining us right now. They don't have access to the internet. And I think that's something that we really do take for granted quite a bit here. is, good Wi-Fi. We complain when, there's a slight delay because our 500 gigablast isn't quite, isn't blasting like we want it to. Well, there are families that don't even have internet at all. And so one of the things we've done is we've procured over 14,000 hotspots. If you're not familiar with a hotspot, it's a little device kind of like this where it provides internet. And we've been giving those out for the last 2 weeks to our families. Every student has a laptop. At the younger grades, they have iPads. And those are the tools that they have so that they can access some form of academic content. In terms of how are we supporting students with special circumstances, we've always heard this. Technology can be the source of frustration, but it could also be the source of a lot of solutions to our problems. And what we're beginning to really scratch the surface on, and I'd love to be able to continue to dive. And again, the context keeps changing. Technology keeps evolving. Every day there's a new tool or a new toy out there that I'm discovering. I'm like, wow, this would be great for our students who are deaf and hard of hearing, or this would be great for our students who have language challenges. So we're discovering some of these tools and plugins. Some of them have been around for a while, but we never thought to use them. But something as simple as, if you're going to play a video, make sure it's a video that has closed captioning available. Make sure it's a video where you can adjust the speed so you can slow it down or speed it up, because some kids don't need to go as slow as the speaker is going. I'm sure I'm speaking too slowly for some people right now. And offer translation services. So we've identified ways that you can have text translated using Google Translate and a variety of tools like that. So those are some of the ways that have worked. Another thing that we've done is we've instilled kind of a daily one-on-one check-in, and that's something that we've put together as well. We have a learning and engagement plan. And what that essentially does is it's asked every teacher to account for every single student every single day, whether that means checking in with them whole group, small group, or one-on-one. But one way or another, just check in with your students. And as I'm saying these examples, you're probably their students and make sure they've memorized their math facts. It goes way beyond. We talk about social emotional wellness, and that's kind of the big term that we lead with these. And I'm sure as Access, you guys can appreciate this. If a student isn't well, if their family isn't well, if a teacher isn't well, and the teacher's family isn't well, we're not going to learn very well. And so we end with wellness in everything that we have after school programs. Even though they're typically in person, they're not. Our after school programs are virtual. And that's another space where we talk about social emotional wellness. How are you doing? And how are you feeling? And how can we help and support you in going through what you're through? What are the needs that you have, and how can we provide those needs? And in some cases, we provide them virtually. In other cases, we're very challenged in how we can provide them. But we can with the tools that we have and continue to discover. Again, some of them are technological, as I've given you a couple of examples. In other cases, there are materials that we can send to a student that are unique to their special needs. We've put together learning kits for students that include basics that most of us, I would assume, hopefully not full. Many of us had knowledge of growing up. Our parents took us to the market and we bought the box of crayons and the scissors and the pencils, tools, so we had our little bag ready before school started. Most of our families don't have those, and so we provided kits for them. So they have those basic tools and necessities that they would normally get when they came to the classroom, but now they're coming and picking them up, and they'll have them in their homes. But every day we're learning more.
Beautiful. And Sarah, I'll let you ask the next question. My thing is, compared to what we've been hearing last week versus what we're hearing this week, it is really, I want to say day and night as far as what private schools worry about versus the amount of diversity as far as the issues are concerned in what the public schools have to worry about. And I was just wondering, Yaqub, as a private school teacher, are you able to relate to any of these things that have been mentioned by Dr. Azzuddin here?
I think perhaps the one that deals with the access to internet is one that we do deal with. And I think the other critical one is checking in with your students, because for some of them, you know, when they come to school, this is their extended family, and you know, during this distance learning, virtual learning, they're not getting that love and that affection from an extended family. So them not being here, that's the one critical aspect that we want to deal with. And we've been talking about that, you know, with our colleagues, that it's important to connect with them. Like Dr. Omar just said, sometimes if you got to take 5-10 minutes off your lesson and say, hey, this is more important, you know, you got to roll with that.
That's actually really interesting. Thank you so much to both of you actually for sharing. It was really interesting to hear, like, just behind the scenes for you, Dr. Ahmad, as an administrator. And you're right. I used to work at a school. Even though we're closed for 60 days, that doesn't actually mean we're not working. There's a lot going on in the school building and preparing for the next year. And this year is quite a unique year, because not only are we planning to transition our students into the next grade level, but we're also trying to prepare them to be able to learn from the comfort of their homes. And so I can imagine all of those challenges and the different elements you have to take into consideration when you're trying to cater to all of these needs. It's super hard, for sure.
Yeah, and I just want to be careful about referencing home as the comfort of their own home. Sometimes it's the chaos of their own home as well.
Oh, I can imagine. I can imagine. No, you're absolutely right, which actually leads me to my next question, because I'm hearing it's virtual learning. Is that right? Since we're giving devices to those who can't access.
Yes. So
Wi-Fi.
our district made the decision that we are a 100% virtual learning until we get off of the state's watch list. Our county is currently, I think the watch list is the right term for it, but I may be using the wrong terminology. But basically, until we get the clearance from the state to be able to open up schools again, or if for some reason our board decides that we want to submit a waiver, which would only allow up to 6th grade for students to come back in person, even if we did get the waiver approved. But we have no plans to do that. We think, particularly in the context of our city, everything is 100% virtual learning.
And so it's synchronous, meaning they're going to be on 8 a.m., see the teacher, and be able. And so
yeah, that's an excellent question, Sarah. If I can maybe give a more complex answer. I've been teaching online for 10 years. And so this is not unfamiliar territory for me. These tools that we've had available, I think are important. So maybe just a quick vocabulary reminder would be very helpful, right? So the first word, or the first two words that you're going to hear used in comparison to one another are synchronous and asynchronous. And I think those terms are really important to know the difference of. Synchronous meaning what we're doing right now. We're all talking to each other, hearing each other in real time. Asynchronous is, I notice it's being recorded. Somebody who wants to watch this later and participate through that, and you know, maybe send me a tweet or an email, that would be asynchronous. What you'll find is a variety of synchronous and asynchronous options for virtual learning. Some of them will include a morning check-in. Sometimes it's only 15 minutes, sometimes it's an hour. I've seen some models, although it's not recommended, where the students are sitting in front of a computer screen for 6 hours, you know, one teacher after another, just essentially attending class in the same way that they would if they were sitting in a seat in a classroom, and some combination of the two. So it's important to recognize that there are different models of learning. Some are completely asynchronous, some are completely synchronous, but most, and I think best practice is those that are a combination of the two.
And Dr. Amar, we're going to make the assumption that these challenges have been met, even though we appreciate what you've just mentioned as far as providing the hotspot, making sure that the kids still get their meals, they get the laptops if they don't have to, access to Wi-Fi if they need to, and assuming that everything is done well. If you can take us through what are the recommendations for parents as well as for the kids, because my guess is you're going through all of these, meeting all these challenges so that the kids can achieve academically.
Yeah.
Now that everything is in place, what is the recommendation? What do we do from here on to make sure that, you know what, the mission is being accomplished to the best of our ability.
Yeah. I chuckle a little bit as the mission being accomplished because frankly, I don't know what the mission is. They're this is such an unprecedented time for all of us. None of us have lived through something like this before. And I mean this, internationally. And the international educational community is all really unprepared for this. And we're trying to figure it out as we go along. So let me perhaps help answer the question first of what is the mission or what should the mission be. So I think first and foremost is wellness. We really need to put wellness as a top priority. First of all, health and safety. So wellness in that regard. So behaviors that are going to minimize disease transmission within our families, whether or not we're going to school. We're hearing every day of people who are contracting the disease and spreading it to others. And we're kind of like, how is this happening if you're not going to work and you're not going to school? And the answer is simple. People are still socializing in ways that are not recommended. And what I mean by not recommended is they're not using personal protective equipment. They're not social distancing. They're not being outdoors. They're not washing their hands. There's a variety of things we can do that would still allow us to engage with our friends and family, but from a safety context. So number one is always keep in mind health and safety as the first half of wellness. The second half of wellness is emotional wellness. Really, how are we dealing with this? This is very unusual. We've had to talk parents, we've had to console parents who are like, wait, so my child's first day of kindergarten is going to be on a computer? Like that's a traumatic experience. We had to console parents who were like, you mean my child isn't going to walk down the aisle and get a diploma for their high school graduation? Like, we're just going to drive by? It's, you know what I'm saying? I mean, my son who won Artist of the Year, they came to the door, they stood 12 feet away, they handed him a envelope. His principal was like 10 feet away. I mean, it all had, the ceremony happened on our front porch with 4 people, whereas usually it happens in front of hundreds or thousands of people, right? So I mean, there's all of these, those have an impact on us emotionally, and I think it's important to recognize that you as a parent, your life is flipped upside down. Even if no one is sick or has died, your life is different now. You've got to think twice about leaving the house. You've got to put on a mask when you go to the supermarket or anywhere else for that matter. You got to constantly wash your hands and sanitize your hands. And on top of that, you got to worry about your child and gaps in their learning and the long-term consequences of that. And many parents are scrambling to find a variety of solutions to those things. So I would say if we were to develop a mission, number one is make sure your health and safety is prioritized in terms of your daily behaviors, your daily interactions, and in terms of what drives your decision making. That would be number one. And it would be helpful if we could have a more communal attitude about our health and safety, right? I think a lot of people are kind of like, well, my immunity is good. No one in my house is going to die of COVID. From what I've heard, it only happens to people that have a more communal attitude about health and safety. The second, of course, social emotional wellness. And then third and foremost, and this is something I wrote in the chat, we have to recognize that for some kids, and I'm gonna have to say this, they love online learning. Like, this is the best thing that's ever happened to them. They don't get bullied. They don't have to share, airspace with other kids. They don't have to deal with some of the social, pressures that they deal with in school at a variety of levels. We're talking everywhere from kindergarten through high school. And I'm sure an argument could be made that, well, they need to experience those things and learn from them. Granted. However, some kids love this. They love this self-paced, individualized, learn as I'm going to learn when I want to learn, right? I mentioned, again, this idea of asynchronous learning. You got kids who are learning, from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. and then sleeping off the day because that's just the way they like to learn. We never could have done that for kids in a traditional schooling environment. So recognize that the way your child learns is going to speak to you through this experience, and take this as an opportunity to learn from your child how they like to learn. They may eventually reveal to you that online learning is just not for them. they may reveal to you that online learning is actually pretty good as long as it's this, this, and this. So take a moment to just be in this space, be in this experience, and allow the experience to speak to you, allow the experience to inform you. And that, I think, will help us all be better parents, better citizens, and ultimately manage these circumstances as best as possible. So just a quick summary: safety and health and safety, social emotional wellness, and then educational context. What works for you? What works for your child? That would kind of be, if I had to kind of summarize it into 3 things, it'd be that.
Thank you for that. That's actually, I really appreciate that. I think with every single hard decision, there are its pros and its cons. And so it's really interesting how you just kind of restructured what's considered terrible and chaotic and negative as something that might very well end up working for the student. And so I never really thought about it that way, but you brought up some really interesting points. I know from prior discussions about the school hours for middle-aged children, for example, they say developmentally, a child learns best, or his ability to think and be alert is later on in the day. And so it's really nice that there's going to be an opportunity for them to pull up their cameras and their videos rather, and record or do their assignments late at night when they're able to actually do their work. So that's really nice to hear. We're actually really blessed today, not only because we have Brother Fuad, a teacher from an Islamic school, but we also have our Mrs. Tammy Abdo, another public school teacher, here to join us. I'm going to ask to unmute her so she can talk to. I'm so interested to know, what is it like for you? I know as a teacher, you're facing your challenges as well, Tammy, about how it's going to be for you to engage these students. What are some tips or strategies, or what are some things you're going to be doing to get them to be awake and alert?
So, assalamu alaikum, everyone. This is a very interesting time, that's for sure. I mean, I've been teaching for now 15 years, and I'm walking into unknown territory, and I feel like I'm a new teacher again, where I have to replan everything, reorganize everything, rethink how I'm going to do my lessons. And today I was talking to my student teacher, and I'm like, we're both going to learn. We're both in this learning process, going through this. What we want to set up our Zoom sessions versus what we're going to do in, set up for assignments. How are we going to combine all of that? How are we going to engage them? And so it's just a really interesting time, and there's so much information out there, and there's so many programs, and there's so many things that are out there. It's so overwhelming. It can become very overwhelming for the teacher as well, because it's like every day you get an email like, oh, look, here's this program, or oh, look, here's this kind of thing, or and it's trying to bring everything together, what's going to work for me and what's not going to work for me. Or what's going to work for the students as well. So, but like Dr. Ahmed said, you have to put everything into consideration, their home life, whether they have an individual education plan or not. Go over there, go sit next to her. And so everything, all of that is playing into, context, whether you have those English language learners in the class, how am I going to address them? How, in class, I can, you have your hands and, you can talk to them individually one-on-one. But when you're in a Zoom session, it's hard to make sure that they're grasping the information that you're trying to teach them. So everything, it's just, I feel like a new teacher again.
Yeah. Interestingly, you bring this up. I've been teaching, we've already started here at the Pleasant View School, the Islamic school here in Memphis. And I was teaching, and then in the beginning of the second week, I get an email from one of the students letting me know that English is not their first language, and that they were having difficulty following in the class. And I said, it just never crossed my mind, because I see all these young kids and I automatically assume English is their first language, and that everybody is just going to be on the same. Everybody's getting my jokes. Nobody was laughing, and that just explained everything, even though I know I'm funny, alhamdulillah. But what happens is you get this idea of, it really is a wake-up call as far as we make these assumptions, not knowing that this is happening. And in addition to that, you've got to be informative, you've got to be entertaining, you've got to be engaging, you've got to keep your eye on the screen to make sure that everybody's looking at you and nobody looks puzzled and everybody's getting it. Maximum participation of everybody that's out. I mean, I'm telling you, these are like you said, it's almost like learning how to be a teacher again. And Yaqub, do you anticipate any of these challenges coming your way?
We had, like everyone else, we went to virtual learning since March. So we faced these challenges for 4 or 5 months. So now coming back with that experience under our belt, yeah, we're going to continue with some of those challenges, but hopefully we, like Miss Tammy was saying, there's a plethora of tools out there. So each teacher will find the one that he or she feels will best address the needs of their class and their instructional goals. So, but yeah, it's very challenging. It's going to be very challenging.
All right. So Sarah, if you remember last time what we did with Sister Mesa, and that is, if you were to give tips to parents, what would these tips look like? And as everybody is gathering their thought, one thing that I really learned from this is just asking parents to really cool it with criticism. And like you said, everybody's working at this point, and everybody is learning, and this is very new to everybody else. I would really say, please just cool it down with the criticism. We can be critical of it. They didn't wake up on time. They're not in class on time. They're not doing their work on time. And to some, like Dr. Azzuddin was saying earlier, this may really be beautiful, but other kids will find this very, very challenging. They're sitting for a long time. They miss their social lives. So they get really bored. And what we want to do is that we really just want to cool it down with the criticism. And Sarah would put it differently, and she would say,
I think for me, what I would advise, and of course for everybody out there as parents and teachers and educators, I know together we all play a part in this. I think take it day by day. Every single day, I log in the news to see what's new, and there's just like new information out there. Everything is changing, not only by the day, but also by the minute. So I can only imagine what it's like in a school when they tell you, I feel like I'm a brand new teacher. I feel like I'm opening the school for the very first time. Because as you are evolving this new curriculum and this new school year, everything is going to change. There's going to be new suggestions and new ways of doing things. It might become the new norm. You never know. And so I think it's super important for you to say, as much as we love to plan, and as much as it's important to structure and have a routine, it's also very important to just take it day by day so that you can prevent yourself from becoming overwhelmed from what's considered the unknown, right? So take it day by day, easy. That's my tip. Who should I pass the mic over to next, Sheikh?
Go for it. So it's cool it with the criticism, take it one day at a time. And Omar, what do you say?
I say be in awe of your children. And maybe we'll even add, be in awe of all of those in your household. Take this as an opportunity, as a gift, and rather than a source of frustration or something to complain about. My family spent 2 years in the UAE, and we were, for the most part, isolated from our family and friends. The only way we could connect with them was, with a 12-hour time difference over video conference. And so we were kind of stuck with each other. And I think for 2 years, we really learned how to enjoy each other. We learned how to appreciate sharing the same space and sharing some of the same interests, and where we didn't, we found our own spaces. But I think in some ways, maybe my family was COVID ready for that reason, or quarantine ready for that reason, because we know what it's like to feel a little bit isolated. So that would be one advice: is embrace the situation, meet the moment, and allow the moment to present itself with all of the gifts and blessings that are available. I think it'll help us handle these circumstances with grace. I haven't addressed my background imagery here, and I've had this as my virtual image, my virtual background for quite a while. There are definitely some Star Wars fans out there that will know right away what this is. But this is the Jedi Council, right? This is the assembly of all of the Jedi Masters who, interact with the Force, and they have a very calm demeanor, generally speaking, and and they're charged with protecting the universe. They're charged with protecting the galaxy. And how do they handle it? They handle it with wisdom. They handle it with poise, and they marshal all of their skills in a manner that is full of grace and mercy toward humanity. And so I think it's something that I always like as the background of how I approach most of the Zoom meetings that I'm in, which is, how are we going to solve this problem? And sometimes I just kind of look behind me and say, the same way the Jedi Masters would, right? Just use the Force, just be in the moment and take what is given to you, because Allah is giving us gifts every day, and accept those gifts as opportunities to grow and develop. And some of the most beautiful gifts that we have are those that we share our household with. And so the more you can allow yourself and open yourself up to be in awe of the moment and those around you, I think the healthier we are all going to be to get through this. And we're going to model excellent life skills for our children and those loved ones who learn from us.
Beautiful. And Tammy, I saw the little one come over by your shoulder and wanting to talk to you and whisper stuff to you. And as a teacher and as a parent, number one, what was she saying? We really want to know.
Well, I think for those who don't know, me and my mom are both on the Zoom in the same house. So she's enjoying the fact that she gets to see me on my mom's computer and she sees my mom on my computer. And
so
she keeps running back and forth.
Daughter.
Yes.
So, okay.
And
so
she
Tammy,
wants to talk instead of me.
Okay. Oh, nice. We will make sure that she says salam to everybody before we finish.
We will.
But Tammy, now that you're a teacher and both a parent, what are your tips for parents?
So I had an interesting experience in the spring where I'm a public school teacher, but my kids went to the Islamic school. And of course, Islamic schools were much more, held more accountability towards the kids. So there was a lot more pressure on the kids to be in Zoom sessions all the time because it affected their grades, their assignments. They were doing much more. Versus me in a public school setting where, because we couldn't reach all students, there was the idea that we had to kind of take a step back, make sure that we can access all students, be able to address the needs of our students. Our Zoom sessions were more geared towards, within our school district, use them as wellness checks for your students. And so we encountered a few things in our house. And one was my kids were seeing how easy it was, and we were with our students in a public school versus they were comparing it to how it was for them in an Islamic school. At the same time, the stress of me having to do my job and them having to be doing their online work at the same time. And so we're all on at the same time. And so that played a role in it, trying to make sure, because I have different age groups. I have 15, 12, and kindergarten. So I have these different age groups, wide range of ages that I need to accommodate. I need to make sure that they're on task, that they're doing what they need, but at the same time, the kindergartner needs that one-on-one a lot of times. And I need her to be in her Zoom session next to me, making sure she's on task doing what she needs to do while I'm trying to address my needs. So I think the biggest thing that parents need to do is you need to make decisions based on what's best for your family during this time. You need to look at your family dynamics, your kids, what your kids' needs are. And make your decisions based on that, how you're going to approach distance learning, how you're going to approach their schooling. So, I mean, that was one thing that me and my husband had to take a step back and start thinking about it. What do our kids need? Is there, is the Islamic school the right environment for them? Or is it that we need to move them into the public school setting because of the, our home life, where we need to be able to take some steps back. And take off some pressure and some stress, because they are under stress in this distance learning. They're losing their socialization. My son lost his soccer. He wasn't able to go to soccer anymore for a period of time. So that was putting stress on him. So what are we going to do to address our child's needs socially, academically, everything, even the home life of the stress? If I'm under stress and they're under stress and their dad's under stress because he's working from home, we're all stressed. What can we do to address that? So make decisions based on your own family needs. I know we like to have our kids in special things and we want, the best for everything, but sometimes to take a step back is the best decision to make.
Brother Fuad, I know Tammy does not mean it that way, but what I heard her say is that Islamic schools are painful in such a way that there is more laxity um, in the public school system versus the
I
pressure
know. Hold on, I'm going to address it.
that is added on from Islamic schools, and that is they demand that the kids be on Zoom, they demand that they do the work, and maybe a lot of, I actually have heard this more than once. So why don't
But-
you all just cool it down?
Let me address that. And it's not, and every Islamic school is different. It's not to say that Orange Crescent isn't a good, no, we're putting our kids in these schools, and we're choosing to put our kids in the Islamic schools because that's what we're looking for. We're looking for that accountability. We're looking for that, we're looking for certain things for our kids. And then, we have our own community too. We're very competitive within our community. That's a reality. Is that we do have that competitiveness within our community, and being in those Islamic schools. And, as much as we say our community is growing, we're still small as a community. So it's not that the Islamic schools are bad, or they're putting the pressure. I expect that from the Islamic school to hold my kids to a certain accountability, to a certain standard. So when I want to take that step back for them, because I know my kids were struggling with distance learning. My daughter, particularly, the 12-year-old, she gets very anxious. She gets very nervous. She holds herself accountable. So she was putting a lot of pressure and stress on herself. And so it's not that, that's what I want from the Islamic school, but at the same time, I need to take a step back for her and say, is this what I need to be putting my daughter under? See, you guys are noticing how she keeps going back and forth?
We can't wait to interview her. So Brother Yaqub, back to you. Fuad.
I would give you the 3 O's, and they begin with observe. Number 1 is observe the quiet times, whether that's meditation or breathing or yoga. The second is observe your health and fitness. It's very important not to get your regular exercise and to be, overeating or, compensating for the COVID and just falling into that habit. And the third O is to observe the outdoors, mindful of health and safety, but getting out to the park, to the beach, perhaps riding a bike, or even now with our own masjids, some of them have huge parking lots, and you can go there and take a stroll. So I liked everyone's tips, but those are mine. The 3 O's, all beginning with observe. Observe quiet times, observe health and fitness, and observe outdoors. Shukran.
And what about the pressure from the Islamic schools? Do you feel that this is something that you guys do?
Alhamdulillah, at Minaret, we were getting constant feedback from parents. We were giving them surveys and questionnaires. And yeah, there was a segment of the parent community and the student community who felt that. So our job and our task now as individual teachers and as different departments is to find that balance, because naturally you can't teach virtually the same way for a middle schooler and then come down to the elementary level and do that. So that's why it's very important as teachers, whatever setting you're in, public or private, take advantage of all those professional development opportunities that are happening now, and the experts like Dr. Omar and yourself and others who are telling us this is distance learning. These are the things that you need to do, and then you need to find what is best for you, but enlarge your own toolbox.
Nice, well said. By the way, just to let you know, Sarah is actually a school counselor, and
Yes.
and it really helps that you have clinicians of this caliber in our community. Somebody who has worked in the public school system, somebody that's what she does, that's her passion. And I just want to let the people know, please seize the opportunity. As clinicians, I can tell you right now, we are very busy. People are reaching out to us saying, look, we need help. There is a lot, Dr. Omar, you said this earlier, maybe it's the chaos that is at home with all this, people being in such a close proximity, that opens the door for more friction and family conflict. And sometimes the intervention of a professional facilitator, clinician, I think is just really, really important. And, I just want to make sure that people know about the services at Access. And And Zara, if you can just say a bit about your background in the field and the kind of services that we can provide to people here.
Yes, of course. So prior to being with Access, I was working in a school. I have 6 years of experience working in schools from K through 12. So yeah, for sure, within each different school setting, whether it's with the high schoolers or with the elementary, mental health is super important. And so just having a school counselor there and being able to work with these students on coping mechanisms for whatever problems they're dealing with is crucial. And so I can only imagine, on top of the everyday stress they're dealing with, now with the pandemic and online learning, I'm sure there's other issues they're going to be dealing with. And I really encourage them to seek their counselor. I know with some schools, they don't have the privilege of enough counselors on campus, but with others, they do have them assigned to them. So I really do encourage all the kiddos out there listening, see your school counselors. We're there to help you. And I hope that you guys definitely make use and take advantage of that service.
And Sarah, thank you for saying that. Please do reach out. Counselors are available. I have one last question, and I apologize if we go a little bit over time here today, but this is such a really, really rich meeting that we're having, and sorry about the background here, boys. But something that you're saying, Omar, that I just absolutely love. I love how you have humanized the people behind the public school system and the challenges that they go through, and the planning, and then the replanning, and then the summary, and the vision, and the revision, and I just love that idea. And if we can just tell people to just take it easy, this is not a perfect system. Not all people know what they're doing. Mistakes are okay. Show some tolerance, flexibility, and just like, if you can just further humanize this process, I think that would just really be something that we would love to hear. Unmute yourself.
Yeah, sure. So I think, first and foremost, I'd like to start with the parents in our communities. I think they are struggling, as many people are who are probably watching this today, with how to manage all of what's going on, right? I heard something very beautiful not too long ago, and I'd heard it before, but when I heard it again, it really touched my heart. It was, educators are one of the few people in our society who go to sleep worrying about other people's children. And what I want you to think about is that while you're at home concerned about your children, there are people in the school system who are also at home concerned about their children and your children. And they think about them day and night just as much as their own. Now, again, I think that's an important distinction. I also think that we often recognize this term frontline workers. And when we think of a frontline worker, we think of the grocery store clerk, we think of the grocery store stacker, the one who's putting the items. We even think sometimes about the people in the back, in the warehouse of the grocery stores. We think of the gas stations, we think of the hospitals and the nurses, and then the numerous healthcare workers that are really in a war zone when it comes to this pandemic. And I want to just encourage us to recognize that just as we have families and children that we're concerned about, recognize that there are other people with families and children that they're concerned about. And on top of that, they're concerned about you and your families and your children. And among those people are the ones that we see and we know about, and maybe we read about, such as healthcare workers and the ones we interact with at the grocery store. So those are people who are constantly on our minds. You may be thinking about the utility services, right? The trash that gets picked up. Those are real human beings as well. The gardener that still comes and landscapes our beautiful lawns and community. Those are all frontline workers as well. Just remember, there are ones that we don't see. And some of those who we don't see are the teachers that are at home trying to teach. And I mean, this is a really good example. You've seen Sheikh Yasser try to conduct and host this meeting with his kids in the background. We all smile and we all love it. You know, you've seen Tammy, and even with backup forces with Nahla in the other part of the house, this is the new normal. This is And as you're trying to experience this, imagine a teacher trying to experience this for 6 to 8 hours a day, or anyone else. And so that's the best I could do. You know, off the top of my head and off the top of my heart, there are people who really care deeply about making this right as we can in a situation that's just constantly changing. And just keep remembering that the rules keep changing, the knowledge keeps changing, and based on that, we're trying to make policies that are going to work.
Thank you for that. Actually, I just want to transition just from what you said, because you bring up a very good point. When we think of essential workers, you're right. The first people that come to mind are the people who are out there doing these things, and we never think of the other people who are still actually open and still helping out. Today, we're actually celebrating the real heroes that served our community on the front line during the COVID pandemic. You know, those who are dedicated in helping other people's lives. And as you see, I actually am here at work, and I've been reporting to work, even though the virus is spreading. Access California never closed its doors, because even though we had the option of shutting down, we knew that our clients still needed a place to go and seek help. In fact, throughout the midst of the COVID, our agency has seen 50% increase in clients. So I want to share with you guys a video that our fabulous team has put together in honor of World Humanitarian Day. Give me a second. Let me share my screen with you all. Hopefully the sound works.
Yes, hopefully.
I think it should. Let us know if you can hear it, Sheikh.
When the COVID-19 pandemic.
Sound good? Can you guys hear?
Yes, yes, we can.
Okay, great.
Yes, we can.
When the COVID-19 pandemic took over our lives, we at Access California Services
Kept our doors open and responded quickly to serve 50% new clients.
Supported over 5,000 underserved community members with health coverage access, mental health, employment, financial assistance, immigration services, and much more.
Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon to our Access family. We hope you are all safe, healthy, and ready to go back to school.
Because we at Access Cal believe that now more than ever need to be serving on the front line and fulfill our commitment to humanity.
I am so grateful for the entire team at Access California Services, board members, staff, and volunteers who stood next to me to keep the door open to serve our community during the COVID-19 health crisis. They are my real-life heroes, and I would like you to join me in celebrating them this World Humanitarian Day.
That was really well done, mashallah, and thank you, Nahla, and thank you to all the staff at Access. And we promised that, Tammy, we were going to let your little one say salam to us. So before I let Sarah thank our guests and close, well, we just want to say salam to her because she really wanted to be on TV.
She does. You want to be with me? Come say salam alaikum.
Hi.
Hey, salam alaikum. What's your name? What's your name?
Talia.
What is it again?
Talia.
Talia. Talia, how old are you?
5.
You know, when I was your age, I was 5 too.
Is he?
Yeah.
Is he 5? Does he look 5?
No.
He doesn't.
All right. It's good to meet you, Talia. Thank you for coming on our show.
Nice to meet you.
All right.
Good
Thank
to
you.
see you, Talia. Best of luck at school. Thank you all. Honestly, Dr. Umar, Tammy, Brother Fuad, I really do appreciate you guys being here and just giving us a little bit of insight of what's going on with you all and with this upcoming school year. It was really an insightful discussion. I understand the hardships of adjusting, and it takes time and practice. And I'm hopeful that our families will learn the best ways to make things work for them, inshallah. Just to advise you all, as the school year approaches, we know that you may not be able to log on every Wednesday to join me and Sheikh Yasser in our Mindful Wednesdays. And although that saddens me very much that I won't see you every single week, I do want to let you know we're going to continue offering Mindful Wednesdays, but it's going to be on a bi-weekly, twice a month basis. So look out for the next flyer that will address the next topic in September, inshallah. Until then, best of luck with this new school year. Thank you guys again. I hope you guys enjoyed today's discussion. I definitely took a lot from it. Thank you all. Take care.
Thank you, Dr. Omar. Thank you, Fuad. Thank you so much for the great information.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Sheikh
Thank you,
Yasser.
everybody.
Thank you. Jazakallah khair.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Hey, you got that video to work today, mashallah. And we actually got to hear the sound as well.
Well, define irony. The one time they put captions, just in case the sound doesn't work, is the time that the actual video works.
You know, believe it or not, I just found out how when you share a video, there is a little button on the left-hand side. You click on the share sound from video. I didn't know about it.
Oh, is it that simple?
It really is that simple. I'm telling you, it really is that simple. There is a button when you press on the share green little thingy. There is a button that shows up that says, try it now. Just try it now. Don't share anything. Just you click on it.
Hey, you know, we should have given the teachers a tip just in case they didn't know.
I'm telling you, man.
It only took us 4 months of Zoom to figure it out.
It only took you. It only took you 4 months. No. But hey, I think this was a great, mashallah, this was a great episode.
Alhamdulillah.
You did
Sheikh,
well. Thank
we'll
you.
keep in touch. Best of luck to your kiddos as well.
Will
Take care.
do.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
evening.
Take care. Assalamu alaikum.